Well, welcome everybody, and let me begin by recognizing Councilman Stein, the budget chair, very important person in any year, but even more important this year. Welcome, Ronnie. I also want to introduce Greg Hinoth, the deputy mayor, and Rich Riebling, our finance director, who will be with me throughout the duration. Let me give a brief explanation for the hearings today to the viewing audience at home. This is an open meeting with each department to discuss their budget needs for next fiscal year. The budget has to be presented to the Metro Council on or before May 1st. Every year that I've been mayor, we've charged Metro departments with finding areas of savings. The budget reduction scenarios that we have asked departments to present in some years have been greater than others. When we were experiencing the Great Recession, our national economy obviously had a tremendous impact on our ability to grow our local revenues. Even as our economy has recovered, our revenue growth has remained moderate, each year looking slightly better than the year before. As a result, we have remained prudent with our local spending. We have only increased property taxes once in the 6 budgets we've completed to date. I will not propose a property tax increase this year either, so that takes the suspense out of the room and for the rest of the hearings. This is a significant shift from trends of the past when tax increases were more frequent. The recession, although over, has permanently changed the way we manage our city budget, and I know the same is true for most local and state governments. We have learned to be leaner and more efficient, and that's a good thing. We have learned how to prioritize our spending. While most Metro departments during the recession received budget reductions in the 10 to 15% range, we protected funding for education and public safety, the 2 most important things our city does. This year, our approach will remain the same. We've asked our Metro departments to each present a budget reduction scenario of 3%. That does not mean every budget will be cut the same amount or even cut at all. Each department's needs are weighed on their own merit. This exercise simply allows us to take a look at how expenses can be further trimmed and where cost savings can occur without having a detrimental impact on city services. And if we find they're not detrimental, we will make cuts. Our city continues to grow. The needs of our community continue to grow with it. We've worked to expand services where they're most needed, adding new police precincts, libraries, community centers, and the like. With every budget, we have prioritized spending on services that directly benefit our citizens over internal spending related to how we operate the government. You can expect that trend to continue this year as well. It is important that our taxpayers see the greatest benefit from every dollar of theirs that we spend, and that's our responsibility to them. On that note, I'd like to turn it over to Police Chief Steve Anderson to begin our first budget hearing and ask him to introduce the staff he brought with him.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. On my right, I have Samir Mehik. He's our finance manager. And on my left, Captain Kay Loki. In the back, I have 2 members of the FOP, the president, and a board member, Sergeant Robert Weaver and Officer Nash. Thank you for being here this morning. Also with us is several members of the police department that we'll acknowledge a little bit later. Mr. Mayor, it's your commitment to make public safety a priority for Nashville citizens and its visitors that has enabled the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department to achieve goals that many thought were unattainable. This last year, it was your commitment to public safety, combined with the hard work of the men and women of the police department, teaming up with community leaders all across our city, that allowed Nashville to record 2,000 fewer victims of major crimes than in 2012. Also in 2013, Nashville recorded the lowest number of homicides in the 50-year history of the metropolitan government. Last year, we had 43 homicides, and obviously you and I agree that's 43 too many. We will continue to work on that. The lowest number prior to that was 45 in 1963. Our 7 precinct commanders are with us this morning. They are essentially the chief of police for the neighborhoods they serve. The strategies they formulate at that neighborhood level is the key to our success. Ladies and gentlemen, commanders, on behalf of all of Nashville, thank you for your dedication, your leadership, and your commitment to public safety. And to all the citizens across Nashville who partner with us and support our public safety and quality of life efforts, my sincerest thanks. At the end of 2013, our officers were working with a record 619 neighborhood watch groups and business groups. Again, this is a record number. Mr. Mayor, our goal was to have one neighborhood group for every square mile in Davidson County, 533. We've exceeded that goal, so we're going to double that and work toward that goal. Last year, the men and women of the police department attended 1,941 community-based meetings. This is also a record. I can tell you that the confidence and support of these community and business leaders is vitally important to the success of any police department. I assure you, we do not take this for granted. We work hard every day to build and maintain these community relationships. Also vital to our success is the relationship we have established with the clergy across Nashville through our volunteer chaplain and other outreach efforts. These men and women give of their own time to join us at the scene of tragic events, oftentimes in the dark of the night and in the cold of the night. They provide comfort to the families of victims and bring a sense of calmness to the event. We know that it is their continued contact with these victims that helps us prevent additional forms of violence in the form of retaliation. I believe that our volunteer chaplain program is a model for law enforcement and is among the best in the nation. I also believe that our individual volunteer chaplains are the best in the nation. With us here this morning is Reverend DJ Shoulders. Reverend Shoulders is one of our volunteer chaplains. Reverend Michael Joyner was to join us this morning, but as often happens, he had an emergency involving an event in the community and detoured to take care of that as opposed to being here. So thank you, Reverend Joyner. Also with us is Officer James Duke, he is a police department chaplain and coordinates all the events between the police department and Nashville's volunteer chaplains. We are a better police department, and Nashville is a better city because of persons like these men and women who give their time to get involved and to help others. Mayor Dean, it is through your vision and support and the support of the Metropolitan Council that Nashville has provided its police officers with the infrastructure that will serve to sustain public safety in Nashville for decades to come. Just since our budget hearing before you at this time last year, we opened the state-of-the-art Paul Scurry building in Madison. This is an 82,000 square foot facility that on the lower level serves as the permanent home for the Madison precinct. On the second floor houses our city's first ever full-service crime laboratory with DNA capability. We're very proud of this building and the cutting-edge technology it provides. Over the next several months, the crime lab will be undergoing the testing and inspection necessary to achieve international accreditation. We anticipate the accreditation process to be completed later this year. At that time, our scientists will begin work presenting evidence on active criminal cases. I want to thank the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation for the assistance and support they have given us throughout the construction and staffing of our lab. Their support has been and will be critical to our success. Earlier this year, we celebrated the grand opening of the new Central Precinct on Korean Veterans Boulevard, just across from the Music City Center. As you know, we had outgrown our space in the Bridgestone, and there was no room to expand. This facility will serve the needs of our police department and the community for many years to come. And as we speak, the future Midtown Hills Precinct is rising in the air on 12th Avenue South. When construction is complete later this year, we will expand from 7 precincts to 8 precincts to serve Nashville. Midtown Hills will be a full-service precinct complete with a community room where the public is invited to hold meetings. Midtown Hills will cover an area of about 46 square miles and will include the communities of Green Hills, Edge Hill, Oak Hill, Forest Hill, Creve Hall, Nippers Corner, as well as Vanderbilt, Belmont, and Lipscomb universities. When Midtown Hills opens, the boundaries of the West, South, and Hermitage precinct will shrink, allowing those commanders to work even more closely with the citizens on neighborhood and community issues. As we adjust these boundaries, we'll also adjust the boundaries between the North and the Central precinct in order to better serve our community and the neighborhoods in that area. Mr. Mayor, the police department has always taken our commitment to financial responsibility very seriously. In carefully analyzing the needs for the upcoming fiscal year, we are asking for a net budget increase of $9.4 million. The largest line item, $5.3 million, is related to the staffing of the Midtown Hills precinct. The opening of Midtown Hills will require an additional 58 police officers, bringing our city's total sworn strength to 1,431. As we promote officers into new and essential frontline supervisory positions to staff the Midtown Hills precinct, we must backfill those vacant positions with the young men and women graduating from our academy. Midtown Hills will also require 2 professional support staff positions. Our budget request also includes $1.2 million to fully fund the salaries of the scientists and provide for necessary chemicals and supplies and maintenance at the crime laboratory. The city has invested a significant funds to obtain the cutting-edge technology and equipment and in assembling a professional staff. It is now time to provide the funding to make the lab operational and to begin providing the scientific evidence in criminal cases. Mr. Mayor, as you know, the investigation of domestic violence crimes is always a priority. We are asking for an additional $171,500 to hire 6 part-time personnel to assist our domestic violence detectives with case management, coordinating counseling service for victims, and arranging safety plans and securing order protections. These part-time persons would likely consist of recent retirees who have a wealth of police experience. They would enable our domestic violence division to be even more effective in the services we provide to victims. Captain Kay Loki, who heads our domestic violence division, is with us this morning. I want to thank Kay for her leadership and for the solid work of the DV team in providing services to victims. Mayor Dean, throughout your tenure, you have been a strong supporter of the police department's approach to aggressive hiring. You and I agree that a fully staffed police department is a very important component to a safe city. When other cities in America were laying off police officers, we were hiring. Our budget request for the next fiscal year includes $1 million to train an additional 18 new police officers so that over an 11-month period we can graduate a total of 116 men and women from our academy. This amount would cover salaries, benefits, and overtime of these 18 individuals through their training and for the first 5 months on the street as police officers. Mr. Mayor, there is no doubt that your support has been instrumental in allowing the police department to keep pace with attrition and to remain fully staffed. Since taking office in 2007, you have personally presided over the graduation of 19 police classes, consisting of 643 new police officers. I might note, Mr. Mayor, that you have been at every welcoming of every class and at every graduation. Thank you for that support. Other major improvements for our budget include an additional $646,000 to cover our expanding special events initiatives. These are funds used to staff the numerous special events held across the city each year. As you know, extra-duty police officers on overtime are utilized to staff these events so that our service to the community with regular duty officers is not disrupted. Nashville has become known for its special events, such as the CMA Fest, the New Year's Eve Bash, the 4th of July celebration, Country Music Marathon, and many others. Staffing these events with extra-duty officers enhances the police presence and safety in the immediate area and ensures that we maintain our regular neighborhood coverage. Mr. Mayor, I think as we go forward and these special events increase, we have to have the staffing to make sure that we hold safe events. The recent tragedies in other cities like Boston has created somewhat of a new normal, and so we have increased our staffing to take extra precaution as the special events take place in our city. We're also requesting additional $238,000 to increase the number of school crossing guards. We have identified 22 new positions, new schools that we need to staff for the upcoming year. Our budget request also includes an additional $41,500 to provide care and supplies for 10 active and 4 retired horses who serve or formerly served in the police department's mounted unit. We are asking for other increases to cover the higher cost of aviation fuel for our helicopters, ammunition for police officers who qualify twice yearly, software license for the computer system, and new phones required by the opening of the Midtown Hills precinct. Mayor Dean, thanks to your priorities and support over the past 6.5 years, the backing, as well as the backing of the Metro Council and the strong confidence of Nashville citizens, public safety in Nashville is on the right track. You are allowing us to keep pace with the city's growth. We thank you for your visionary leadership and all that you do for the men and women of the police department. With you, we very much look forward to the special opportunities and challenges of this new fiscal year. Certainly, if there's any questions, Mr. Mayor or staff, we have people here to answer.
Great. Well, thank you. And first, let me congratulate you and your leadership staff and all the members of the police department for their great work in this past year and the years before that in terms of crime reduction, and I think the reduction in the homicide rate. It's a lot of reasons go into that, but the police department plays a key role in your attentiveness to communities, your work with local organizations. I'm sure has had a major impact, and so I'm very grateful for that. That is a tremendous achievement, and I think the whole city thanks you for it.
Thank you, sir. The credit goes to the people sitting behind me that manage the precincts and other components in the police department.
Thank you. Why don't we start with, we could talk about the Paul Scurry building and the crime lab. So the building's completed, you're in the process and have hired scientists, and the lab is being set up, but there's an accreditation process you go through.
Yes, sir. The building is completed. The equipment is in place. It's a grand facility, state-of-the-art equipment. We have hired the management staff, and we have hired a good many of the scientists. What we need to do is fill all the positions and then start the accreditation process. That means inspection, close scrutiny, making sure that we adhere to international standards. There are things that, as any endeavor, certainly something as complicated as this that can go wrong. So absolutely every precaution is being taken to make sure that the lab is managed and run in a manner that meets all standards worldwide. So that process is started. We think we can be complete later this year, and then those scientists can start presenting their evidence to the courts here in Davidson County.
Okay, and just so the folks understand, there are a variety of accreditations for different departments that take place within the government, and all of those, I think, are good in the sense that certain standards are established and followed. But in this case, it's really it's fundamental to the integrity and the usefulness of the crime lab for it to be accredited, because what you're doing at the crime lab is creating evidence that would be admissible in court. And for it to be admissible in court, there's a whole series of different standards and integrity of the evidence that has to be proven in court. And so the accreditation process for the crime lab, I think, takes on additional importance.
It certainly does. The police department is accredited. It's been accredited since the mid-'90s. This year, we submitted ourselves for the gold standard. We have a very good report from the inspectors that came in. Our training academy is separately accredited, and likewise, the crime lab will be separately accredited. And as you pointed out, any evidence submitted to the court has to withstand every test and every challenge. So we want to make sure that our lab is the best in the nation.
Okay. And then in terms of the Madison precinct, we did the ribbon cutting. That's up and running and effectively serving the citizens of that portion of the county?
It is. The men and women certainly have a place to work out of that is second to none, and the citizens of Madison have been so strong in their support. So it's truly a community effort, and crime is being reduced in that area as we speak.
Okay. The Midtown Hills precinct is currently under construction, and that should be completed.
We think July, maybe August.
Right, and that will be the second new precinct that we brought on since I've been mayor?
That's correct. We brought on the Madison precinct 2 years ago, and this will be the second new precinct in the terms of geographical area. And of course, we opened the West Precinct, a new facility, and we also opened the Central Precinct, a new facility for an existing precinct. But Madison is a totally new geographical area carved out of what was formerly the North Precinct, and likewise Midtown Hills, the area it serves, roughly the area between Nolensville Road and Hillsborough Road, will be carved out separately, and the West Precinct and the South Precinct and the Hermitage Precinct will shrink accordingly, allowing those commanders to pay even closer attention to those neighborhoods.
Okay, and the Midtown Hills Precinct and the Madison Precinct being brand new, could you explain to the viewers what benefit the city and the citizens receive from adding 2 precincts to the former total of precincts we had in the city?
A neighborhood police operation. As we pointed out, we need 58 new officers to staff the Madison precinct, the Midtown Hills precinct, as we did the Madison precinct. So bringing a new precinct on obviously means bringing on a new commander and supervisory team. But it also means that each precinct now has their own patrol officers. Each precinct now has the 3 flex teams who work at the discretion of the commander, moving them from place to place on a daily basis wherever the need arises in that precinct. Each precinct has a full complement of detectives to investigate the crimes that occur in that geographical area. And then each precinct has what we call a crime suppression unit, which is essentially a vice squad, 6 officers and a supervisor to deal with street-level drug activity, prostitution, gambling, those things of those nature in that neighborhood. So these will be new police officers, new positions devoted to that neighborhood.
And you also get the added benefit that, and I think the easiest illustration for me has always been that when the Madison precinct was created, the coverage area for the North Precinct was reduced dramatically. So there's a ripple effect that goes around the city that the existing precincts are able to more intensely police a smaller area.
Certainly. When those 88 square miles were taken from the North Precinct and made into the Madison Precinct, Commander Graves is here to tell you that he can now concentrate more closely on the North Nashville area and the Jolton area, those areas remaining under his command, and attend more neighborhood meetings, meet more of the community leaders, be more closely involved in those neighborhoods.
Okay. And the Midtown Hills opening results really in your largest budgetary request, which is the addition of 58 additional officers? 58
additional sworn officers, and then 2 professional support staff, administrative personnel to staff the precinct.
All right. And that 58 would be, these are not replacing people or, filling in for turnover. This is 58 new officers.
58 new officers. Obviously, the commander and the other supervisory personnel will be selected from our existing staff, but these will be 58 new officers to take their place.
Okay. And so I know that we got 50 new officers with the COPS grant during the recession, and the council, I think, wisely supported that those 50 officers be made permanent, and they were added to our total. And then these 58 will be added to that. So is that the total number of new positions and police officers in recent years?
Well, it would. We added 58 with Madison and we're asking for 58 for Midtown. So it would be a total of 116.
So we've added 116 for the 2 new precincts plus 50 with the COPS grant. So, or the 50 for the COPS grant has helped with Madison.
That was 116 total, including the 50 with the COPS grant.
All right. right. And you mentioned the police graduation. I think I've done 19, and we've hired somewhere over 630 policemen officers since I've been in office. You have kept the academy running pretty much all the time, right?
We have either one or two classes in session most all the time. Right now, we have one. We'll be starting another one actually tomorrow. So we'll have two in place. We had one graduate, if you'll remember, about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Okay. And what sort of, with all the hiring that's being done, what sort of response are you getting in terms of applicants?
Well, like any police agency, we don't have all the applicants that we would like to have, but we are doing exceptionally well compared to other police agencies across the nation. So we have some very top quality people coming to our police department, many of them coming from outside the county and outside the state, because Nashville, frankly, is such an attractive place to be. It's a good place to raise your family. It's a good place to start a business. It's a good place to be a police officer. And we have applicants from across the nation that recognize that.
Okay. Now, also in your request, there's a request for the addition of 6 part-time employees to assist with domestic violence operation. How will these additional employees improve the efficiency of the department and improve how we serve the public when it comes to domestic violence?
Well, bottom line, they will relieve our detectives of many of the administrative tasks they now support. As Captain Loki will tell you, investigating crimes of domestic violence is a very complicated, time-consuming matter. The victims need our support. The victims need guidance throughout the process. So this will relieve the detectives of the many phone calls that's made, of the scheduling of counseling, of the case management, and allow them to do the work that they do on the street. These 6 personnel will take that load off of them, provide an enhanced service to our victims, make the proceedings in court go more smoothly. We will be hiring experienced police officers, retirees, persons, some of them who worked in domestic violence in the past. And we think that that is the best way to spend our dollars and get the most out of what we spend.
Okay. And in terms of your future hiring, what efforts do you all make to make sure that you're hiring a diverse workforce?
Well, we have a recruitment staff that targets areas all across Nashville and all across the nation to ensure minorities and women are become a part of this police department, that we show that this police department is an attractive place for everyone to work. So we make a great effort at that.
Greg, you have anything?
No, I think you covered them all.
Rich?
I just would point out that there'll be a recurring discussion about domestic violence throughout some of these budget hearings. You'll hear there's sort of because of the emphasis on the report, there's going to be several departments are going to talk about some needs for domestic violence, additional funding and programs, and so I just
I think that's a good point. I think we will hear from a variety of departments with additional requests to implement the recommendations of the domestic violence report. And you were very cooperative in all of that. And I'm assuming your requests sort of mirror the work that was done with a variety of agencies.
Yes, sir. And our request may seem somewhat small, but this is where we want to start. And we think that this $171,000 to hire 6 part-time personnel to augment our staff there is the best dollars spent. And we'll evaluate that as we go forward and make any suggestions for next year as we come before you next year.
Good. All right. Well, let me again repeat my thanks for a great job that you all do. Well, let me say the chief is, I think, the only person I know when I go out and meet with different groups who's beaten me to a lot of places. You're out there a lot, and you meet with the public constantly, and that's a good thing. I think you provided great leadership. but the department has performed. I mean, we've put a lot of resources into the police in the last 6-7 years, and I think it's the right thing to do. Fundamentally, for a city, if a city isn't safe, nothing works. I mean, it is the absolute essential for a city, and so what you do is vitally important. I want to take the opportunity I have now to also thank the clergy. Reverend Duke, thank you for all your hard work, and I want to echo your kind words about Reverend Joyner for what he does. But I know you frequently meet with the clergy. They've been involved whenever there's been a crisis or a situation that's come up when column heads are important, and they've done really extraordinary work, and I want to thank them and thank you for your work in that area. I want to thank BFOP for your great work. You went into the area of economic development with us, and we've got the FOP convention coming, and when's it going to be here? 2017. I won't be here, but they'll be here, which is, I'll be invited. Well, good. Which I think is a great thing, and I should thank publicly Trace Atkins, who made the journey to Cincinnati with us to make the pitch, and it's fair to say that Trace had a bigger impact on the crowd than I did. He was fantastic, and it was really, really good of him to do that. But again, thank you. You guys have done, guys and women have done a fantastic job. I mean, you really have. I couldn't be prouder of the police department, and I say it all the time that, when I go to bed at night, I don't worry about whether we're doing the job with the police. You're doing the job. And I mean it. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and our commitment is to spend the dollars that we are allotted in a manner that best serves Nashville.
Thank you.